There you go. No, I think they'll be pretty versatile though, to be honest.
Hi Tyria, welcome to Guild Chat and happy Friday. Thank you all for joining us. I'm your host
Take a
Ruby,
look.
and we have been having so much fun this week, seeing all of your reactions and
That's a comfy hoodie.
That is
looks
comfy.
really comfy. It's like very jersey material.
That we revealed. We are looking forward to you trying them in the beta event next week. We're going to give you a little head start today.
Oh, head start.
With an overview of all three of them,
that's the stream. Never mind.
Revenant, the Elementalist, and the Warrior Elite specializations. We're going to go over the skills, the gameplay, and the general how each one works, and then Cal's going to go back and get a little bit deeper into the traits and gameplay theory for those of you who really deep dive into how this is played and want to make sure you are super efficient. So let's go ahead and get started with our two developer guests. First, Indigo, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, hi,
Lore,
I'm
Indigo.
I'm a writer, narrative designer on Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons and live content. I'm primarily working with the open world team. I'm a content owner for one of the narrative maps, which we'll talk about at a later time, and the Golden Path and the Elite specializations, which is why I'm here today.
Yeah, and Cal, thank you.
Hi, happy to be here again. I'm Cal, game designer on Guild Wars 2. I do a lot of work on competitive game modes, PvP, World v World, a little bit of balance to those game modes. For End of Dragons, we did a lot of work on Elite specializations. So once again, I am here to kind of demo those and show those off to all of the players.
I'm thirsty just looking at
seeing what's actually going to be in the beta
honor.
next week.
Awesome. All right, well, let's do this. Let's get started with the Vindicator.
Ooh, here comes the Rev. Vindicator.
The
Now-
Kurziks and Luxons were bitter enemies.
They say
but their
instead of dodging
greatest
him.
champions, Saint Victor and
That's a lie.
Arkamoris,
Okay.
united to help slay Shiro the Betrayer
Are you
at
ready?
the cost of their own lives. Vindicators call upon the strength of their legendary
Zero
alliance,
dodge Rev.
channeling both heroes' skills to devastate their enemies and protect their allies. They use greatswords to deliver massive attacks and crush foes by leaping straight into battle instead of dodging.
Instead of dodging, dude. Oh, I can't wait. Here we go. Dodge modification. I'm ready to see this destroy the game in some way. Like, I'm ready for the annihilation. The annihilation to kick
Quick
in.
call it. Is it more like Mirage or more like Daredevil?
I would say
All
so,
right.
yeah. Definitely
I
more
am
towards
excited to
Daredevil.
hear about this one, especially the conflict between who you're channeling. So let's start with Indigo and tell me about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Vindicator is really near and dear to my heart, which I'll probably say for a lot of the specs because they're all so much fun to work on. But
You said it was the Elementalist.
the Elementalist is near and dear to my heart.
They're laughing at Ellie, dude.
Betrayal.
Mocking it.
Well, I'm a
Yeah.
Mesmerman, so that was near and dear to my heart. Everything.
Fine. Anyway.
The Vindicator was a lot of fun to write specifically because for the first time, the Revenant not only channels one spirit, but two. And our Guild Wars 1 players are probably
double
familiar
legend.
with Arkamoris and St. Victor Zuhelzer as heroes from Canthan's past. That defeated the villain Shiro Togachi, which is another name that you might be familiar with because he is also
I
another
will
Revenant legend.
never
Now,
summon a Luxon.
St. Victor and Arkamoris were from
You might not
opposing
have a choice,
factions,
dude.
the Luxons and the Kurziks, and we won't get too far into what's going on in modern Cantha today. And I mean, we all know that the Kurziks are the best
Absolutely.
anyway.
No question.
Whoa.
It's fine. There's no argument there. We're all a little
Whoa.
biased in this
Told
room.
you.
Dude,
But,
Luxon is better.
just fact.
Turtles, dude.
Wrong.
What's really fun about this
Completely
class is that the themes of those two opposing cultures really comes into play in the gameplay itself in these specs too. Saint Victor, who is from the Kurziks, his gameplay is a lot more defensive and cleansing, while Arkamoris is a lot more offensive and brutal in his gameplay. And with the help of your new greatsword, or your ability to use a
Brutal.
greatsword rather, there's a really fun balancing act and dance between jumping between these skills and really like learning kind of this interweaving of how they work together. And I think players are going to be really excited to hear from Cal how
Here we
this
go.
functions.
I have a super important question first. It's a little
Yeah.
frivolous, but it's also incredibly important.
Yes.
Shiro.
Shiro.
Oh, is there roleplay?
So Shiro
Roleplay interaction.
Togachi,
Let's go.
for those that don't know, is a big bad villain from Guild Wars 1 factions. I won't go too much into that because who knows what's going on, but basically the TLDR is he brought this little plague called the Affliction into Cantha. He stirred up a little bit of trouble.
He was gross.
He was a little gross. But now he's stuck in the mist. He's
What,
dead.
dude?
He's
We're
long
getting
gone.
teased, man.
And we might actually get to hear some spirit bickering.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Because,
Okay,
Yes.
yes,
I
that
mean,
is
now
actually
he's
quite. Yeah,
kind
that's
of
fun.
Stuck
That
in
is
this
fun.
realm
Yeah.
of the undead with the two guys that helped kill him a
Yeah.
while ago. So I will say that players will also be really excited to hear that. You're going to be able to hear some new commentary on the state of Cantha now, and that was probably one of the best things to write for this
New
expansion.
new commentary.
Get ready for some my spiritual house.
It's very
husbands.
cryptic.
Yes. I love that.
Wait,
my
are we live right
question-
now?
How many times are they going to bring Shiro back? They brought him back like
In Nightfall too, right?
I love
Yeah.
that my question was Shiro, and I didn't have to, like, you were there with me. Thank you. All right, so Cal, let's
Show
go
us.
over these skills of the Vindicator.
Oh,
All right, let's get into the skills.
let's go.
So, as Indigo said, we have the legendary
dodge.
Alliance stance, which is the name of
Oh,
the...
wait, is it
the
2 in
name of
1?
the
It's 2
Revenant
in 1,
legend
actually.
here. We've seen like Dwarf and Demon in the past. This is the Alliance, Arkham
Okay.
and St. Victor.
At the same
Also,
time.
quick shout out to everyone in the chat who voted for Kurzix being the best, because it's not even close. I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine the alternative.
Imagine
See,
being
yeah.
so
But
wrong and still
basically,
employed
the
there.
idea of this spec is that you have kind of this dual-sided alliance stance. And I mean, basically the entirety of the brainstorming meeting is, you know what's better than one legend? 2 legends. And all right, thought about it, did some math, called in some professional mathematicians, and they did confirm that 2 is in fact greater than 1.
Yes.
And so we decided to go with the double legend alliance
That's true.
stance.
That's a good call.
So basically how this works is we're going to see, right now I'm kind of in the
He has 1 dodge,
Arkham
guys.
Morris,
Just saying
what's
this.
inside of
It's
things.
1 dodge, man.
And once I fire off, we'll get into these skills in a second, but notice how I use the heal skill in
Oh.
Arkham
Oh, it
Morris, now it
flips. You
flips
can
over to the Kurzix side of that, goes on
Ooh.
cooldown.
That is awesome.
So
Okay.
this is
That
going
is
to create
Pog,
kind of like an
actually.
interesting
So you have
dynamic
double skills.
in gameplay and how you decide to either go on the aggressive or go on the offensive or kind of mitigate damage and support your teammates, because we're going to see a lot of offense.
I like the
Arkham
icons
Morris,
actually
a lot
on
of
the
defense and
skills, on the
support
sword. It
St.
look very
Victor.
cool.
So let's just get into the skills real quick. I'm going to turn off cooldowns because that
Interesting.
makes this demo a lot more exciting. But we're going to see some common themes between the 2 skills, some mechanical themes
Let's
between the
go.
2 skills that share the same slot. And turns out for the heal skill, they both heal you. Makes sense. That's not super
Yeah,
surprising.
that's, yeah, okay,
Starting
yeah.
off with Selfish Spirit, which is the Arkham Morris side here. This is going to be it's going to be like just a self-heal. It's also going to hit nearby enemies.
25 might.
So
Oh my
another
God, that's good.
common
Yeah,
theme we're going to
that's
see
good.
both here on Arkham
Okay.
Morris and as well in
I
the
like it.
Greatsword kit is that the Vindicator really wants to be in these larger fights. We've
3
seen in the
heal
past
skill
stuff
rev.
like Shiro and Sword Main Hand
Yeah,
are
that's
more
what I was
about
thinking.
isolating a single target and maximizing kind of that assassin-y gameplay and just focusing down a single key target.
might.
Whereas we're going to see with Arkham Morris, we're going to see the Greatsword just more natural, large AoE cleaving attacks. And
Okay,
so
what's
there
this one
with the Arkham Morris heal, we saw that hitting multiple enemies gives me might stacks per enemy struck, also applies vulnerability, gives me a little bit extra healing. So again,
That is AoE
get
heal.
into
Ooh,
range with
AoE
all
heal
those
on
targets,
that one.
hit as
Yeah,
many
that's
as you
pretty
can,
good.
Yeah.
and get the maximum value of that
But they're
skill.
quite. I think they've done this quite well.
Moving over
'cause
to
they're-
the other side
it
of that
seems
is going to be
not the
selfless
biggest heal,
spirit.
but it's
So
like you have to
little
use both of them to get
fun,
value out of it.
naming
Right?
conventions there. And so selfless spirit, nothing too crazy going on. It's just going to be that AoE heal, going to heal yourself if I do die here.
That's a pretty damn good skill, though. To be
And I
fair.
forgot to note that myself, but that's fine.
Right, I thought we were
Just,
doing Rev, not Ellie. What?
Fix that real quick and
Wash
flip
the
back
pain
over
away.
here. But so we're going to heal myself, heal my allies, and that's going to, I mean, nothing too crazy here.
Okay.
AoE support skill. Moving into the next slot, we're going to see Nomad's Advance. So the common theme of this slot is they're going to be mobility.
Okay.
Arkham Morris, Nomad Advance, is going to go in. Pretty good damage on the skill. Give some might per target struck again. Hit as many targets
Oh,
as
I
you
bet
can,
this
get
one leaps
maximum
you out,
value
right?
to that skill.
Yeah,
And
it
that's going
does.
to flip over to
Yeah.
Battle Dance.
Oh, that's
which is
cool,
gonna be
actually.
kind of
That's
the more
really cool.
disengage, evasion half of this, which is also going to give resistance and regeneration to yourself and nearby allies.
Okay,
so again,
good
more
access.
supporty,
AoE,
and just that
okay,
backwards
yeah,
mobility
yeah,
as
yeah.
opposed to the engage mobility of Nomad's Advance. Next up, we're going to see Scavenger Burst. So this is
I
going to
thought that was
be the
AoE
common theme here
quickness,
is
but it
you're
isn't.
going to have some endurance gain. That'll play in
Not
really
yet.
well with the
Endurance gain per
profession
target.
mechanic, which I'll talk about right after we get through the
Ooh.
alliance skills. Some of you have noticed there's
Interesting.
no divider pip here on the endurance bar. That is, we kind of talked about that a little bit in the preview video and some of the
Oh,
text
he hasn't
that we've
dodged yet. I
kind
want
of
to see
shown
it.
to the world
Show
already,
us the
where
dodge.
the Vindicator does only have access to a single dodge, and that's going to consume all of your endurance.
Whoa.
And no recharge is going to give me some energy back,
the-
but that's not going to happen for real players.
shit.
So giving some extra endurance and gain throughout the kit here. We're going to see some of that in the
Okay.
traits as well. That's really going to enable kind of that singular
that's
dodge.
something,
Do not fall
okay.
off too hard in areas where you want multiple dodges. So Scavenger Burst also going to give you quickness per target struck, in addition to just being a damaging ability. So hit a bunch of targets, get a lot of quickness, get some damage.
Yep.
And get
That's
some
big.
endurance back. And that's going to flip over onto the Luxon side with Tree
5
Song.
condies removed.
Or
Yep,
side,
that's a good
rather.
skill.
Tree Song. I'm going to walk out now.
And more endurance as well. A lot of endurance here.
We'll get through this real quick. So Tree Song, this is again more that supporty, this ranged ability, similar kind of radius. This is going to give you endurance per ally
Tree
affected by
Song.
this, and also per condition. This is a 5 Condi cleanse per ally. Number of allies
ally.
affected and the number of
Wow,
conditions cleansed
that's
is going to
quite
give
good.
you more and more endurance. So we just top out here, not cheat endurance, lose some endurance here. I'm going to be cleansing
Boom.
5 conditions from all of these guys.
That is
It's
quite
gonna
the
give me a
dodge
pretty good
ability, I'm
amount
not
of
going to lie,
endurance
guys.
back. Also going to heal per condition removed there as well. Finally, moving into the stun break slot, we're going to start with Reaver's Rage. So again, this is going to be a skill that you really want to hit the maximum number of
dodge roll.
targets. You're going to get some extra value from the skill. So it's going to be PBOE damage, give you some stability initially, give you some fury initially, but then per target struck, that's going to scale up. So we see we just got
Okay,
6,
bit of
7
stab.
stability stacks,
Stab, bit of
as well
fury.
as a pretty solid fury duration because we are hitting
I get it.
the maximum number of targets here.
I'm feeling this is going to be
flip
okay in
over into
PvP.
Awakening.
Yeah, I think that might be quite
And
a good
so
thing
the
to have.
Cool, I guess the more unique stun break aspect of Awakening is that it actually breaks stun for your allies. And additionally, you see it gives
Ooh,
a
that
little
is
bit of
fucking
stability.
Wow,
good,
that's
actually.
so
solid
good.
Yeah,
protection
that
to
is
all those
good.
allies in range.
Wow.
But it's also
Okay.
the kind of shared stun break that we've seen on a few skills across
Yep.
the game. This felt like a
AoE
really
stun
good
break.
spot to give that that shared stun break mechanic. So that's going to be what you get
Nice.
from Awakening here.
Dude,
Then
the
moving
elite.
into the elite
Here we
slot,
go, here we
we're going
go.
to have. I guess these are a bit more divided in terms of mechanics. These are more
2K
the
range?
iconic artifacts that you might be familiar with of these characters.
Let's
the Spear
go.
of Archimedes here. The
Let's
skill is
go,
not
dude.
all that complicated. It's just a very, very powerful, super long range, 2,000 range, long distance, very high damage multiplier, a little bit of torment in there. Just super focused on maximizing the damage. Archimedes does a lot of the heavy lifting himself with the cast time. Revenant
And you
only
just
has
put
a
it
little
down,
bit of
yeah.
cast time. And then Archimedes will stand there, charge it up,
That is big.
throw at the target, and do a lot
Big
of damage
snipe.
to that enemy.
What's the Victor one?
That's going to flip over into the Urn of Saint Victor,
Become the
which this is again going to be more of that supporty,
Oh, shit.
supporty.
Dude, what is that?
Ally supporty. I
You
keep saying
turn
supporty,
into
that's
the
not a
urn
good
and
thing.
take damage.
But let's come
It's a
over
real
here
thing,
to
go with it. Yeah.
some of these golems here that are a little
New
bit lower in
race,
health. So
urn.
what's going to happen with the
Play
Urn of Saint
as
Victor?
an
Let's just
urn.
hover the tooltip for a second here.
I like that.
Yeah, I like
See all
that
those
too. That's
Urn
big.
gameplay.
Yeah, urn
So the first
gameplay.
thing that's
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
happen
yeah, yeah.
is while you're channeling the urn, which is upkeep skill, -10 upkeep, this is going to
Okay.
start dealing damage
Yep.
yourself, but you also see that allies nearby are
AoE
being
heal,
So
yep,
while you're
yep.
in kind of this upkeep, it's not really a stance, but upkeep mode, the Revenant will not be able to take incoming healing either. So you're creating
Okay.
this really
It's a weird skill.
kind of dangerous,
What does that do, actually?
high risk, high reward type
What
of
else does it
gameplay
do?
where as long as you channel this, you're
Wait.
going to be kind of more susceptible to damage. You do get a little bit of damage reduction in there for both
So you get
power
15
and
damage
condition
reduction
So you'll be
and
a little bit more
damage,
tanky, but not
and
able
you're
to
faster.
sustain yourself at all. And then this is going to continuously pulse heal toward allies. And then as you see here on the final flip over skill, you can recast this ability to then have a
boons.
more final burst of healing and some boons that's
Okay.
going to scale
It uses
based
all
off
of your
how low
energy,
your
though.
health is.
A
So
little
this is something
questionable.
that you can kind of, if you're already low, you can just pop it when you're low health and then fire it off
a
immediately
big heal, though,
to get the
actually.
full value of the skill. Otherwise, you're going to have to sit there, take that kind of incoming
Yeah, the
damage,
lower health
incoming
you are, the
pressure
more you
to
heal.
really get
Yeah,
your
yeah,
health
and you
as
get the
low as you
boons
possibly
too. You
can
get resistance
to get
and
the
stuff.
maximum healing and the maximum
Yeah, okay.
boons there. We saw regen, resistance.
That's a
and
kit
protection.
right there. That is a
A
kit.
lot of good
I
power
will say
coming out
that.
from that.
That's only the utility.
Yeah.
elite skill.
That is a toolkit.
And so
Ladies and
that's
gentlemen.
kind of the high-level view of the Alliance stance. So when it comes to more like realistic gameplay scenarios, you see like if I use the selfish spirit on the Luxon side of things, now I'm kind of in this position where, all right, my skills are starting to flip into kind of the alternate modes, and maybe I'm more interested in only dealing damage because damage is great. I just want to kill the boss as fast as possible. I don't want to waste energy. I don't want to waste time casting these more defensive supporty skills because I'm going to play like Alliance plus Shiro or Alliance plus Jalis and go for that really aggressive build. And so we're going to see here on the F2 skill, Alliance Tactics. This is going to
wait. Oh,
be an
just get a
opportunity
dodge
for you
back.
to
Nice. And wait, you insta-swap
pick and
them?
choose when
that
you
is super
flip
interesting,
over those
actually.
abilities
What a
outside
fun
of just
mechanic.
casting them.
Holy
so
shit.
if you do just want to maximize damage, maybe you fire
But
off
also
all of the
all of
Arkham
them.
skills.
So Lux and Kurzik and Kurzik
without having to
Luxon.
deal with
That is actually going to be so much fun.
St. Victor side of these things, we're going to just fire off alliance
keeps the
tactics, and that's going to
cooldown,
flip
thank
your whole
God.
bar back. So
yeah, you
anything
still have
that's
the cooldown, but it
in
swaps them.
Those are short
Arkhamor's side
cooldowns
is gonna
though,
flip to
especially with
St. Victor and
Alacrity.
vice
Those will be
versa.
fun.
So if you're like already in a hybrid state of the bar, you're going to have a hybrid state on the other direction.
That is actually
This ability also
very
gives you
fun mechanically.
endurance.
That's insane.
And it does cost energy, so this is an
I can't wait
opportunity
to see what the
convert
dodges do, you know?
energy into endurance.
I'm
and that's
ready.
going to be one of the things you really need to be kind of min-maxing while you're playing this character, because again, the dodge mechanic is going to kind of enable some of your damage or support, depending on which one you choose. We'll
Here
get into
comes
the
the
traits a little
dodge.
bit later in the show.
Here it comes.
But we're going to see a few different flavors of the Vindicator dodge, similar to what Daredevil does, where you can kind of pick and choose based on your
Nike
master
called it.
trait. If you want to go super high damage, more supporty, or something a little bit in the middle with some wounds and a little bit of damage.
Whoa,
So
look
you
at
have
this
the opportunity
ability.
to, depending on
7K
how much energy you
dodge.
spend on your skills, maybe you
Okay.
want to get charge miss over an invocation to really maximize how much energy you have while you're swapping between legends.
Also
That's going to
proc
allow
the
you to take
traits,
alliance
I think.
tactics.
Yeah,
and
there's some
get
kind of
that
trait there as well, yeah.
endurance back, while also
Yeah.
min-maxing the gameplay style you want to get out of alliance stance.
That's a long evade
Because
as
you
well.
also have
That's like a
potentially
really
the
long
option to
evade.
run a more supportive style, maybe
Super
Ventari
long.
plus alliance, and then really
I
focus
wonder if
on
they made it
these
affected by
Victor
quick
side
ones by
skills,
accident.
and just
that's
make
a
sure
good
you're
question,
casting
actually.
those. Don't care as much about Arkham Morris in that case, and then you're going to be really wanting to take advantage of alliance tactics to flip over those skills whenever you feel the need to. So I'll just touch on the dodge again real quick. We'll get into the kind of key
How does this
details
work with pathing?
once we
Can
get
you,
back
like,
into the
go
traits.
over
But as you can see,
terrain with
this?
this? How does that
a
work?
pretty long. This
you,
is
like,
the
climb up
super
cliffs?
aggressive offensive dodge that I have slotted right now.
like, on
so you see
foe
it's going
fire,
to give
could
me
you
a
climb
buff
up the
to
wall with that?
outgoing damage.
I wouldn't think
And
so.
outside
I
of
think
that,
it's
this
just
is
an
a much
animation.
slower, more
Yeah.
telegraphed, much longer evade frame.
You're
But
probably
also
invisible.
a pretty
but you're still
significant
there.
Yeah.
amount of damage here at the end. And we've definitely seen like how a single dodge plays
What if
with
you can climb up
Mirage, since
cliffs?
we've made that change in PvP and World v World for a while now. So when we're building the Vindicator, we wanted to make sure that all of these dodges feel rewarding enough to justify kind of that increased danger of not being able to dodge multiple times in a row.
One dodge gamer. So we gave it a 3
Obviously,
second
we've seen
evade.
some defensive cooldowns on the Alliance stance. Shiro has access to that. Jal is going to get some damage mitigation. So Revenant
And you
does
get
have
endurance
a lot
back.
of
F2
tools
gives
that
you a
can kind
dodge,
of
bear that in
mitigate
mind.
damage outside of their dodge, and we felt that it was a really
And the
interesting
abilities
place
give
to
you endurance.
kind of try the single dodge mechanic again, and see
And
if
also
Revenant
evades.
is something that can also
Yeah.
make that work.
Strong mechanic. Pretty good.
So next, we're going to move into the
Oh,
greatsword
weapons.
skills, and kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, where this is very much more that AoE cleaving power DPS
Ooh,
weapon.
5 target.
That's going
yeah,
to
yeah.
complement
Big
Sword
cleave.
Sword pretty
Big
well if you're just
cleave.
looking for like a PvE
Big
damage
cleave.
rotation.
Huge cleave,
But
actually.
also just for those larger fights, maybe in World v World environment, PvP team fights, open world, looking to hit as many targets as you can, then the greatsword's going to be really a valuable choice.
Is there a chain? Is there?
So
oh,
nothing
there is
too
a chain.
crazy
Okay,
here on
yeah.
the auto attack, pretty standard greatsword auto attack. The final hit applies chill, so a little bit
Chill?
of staying power, a little bit of chase down, which is what melee characters like to see.
Annoying.
That's a fast chain as well. It's
Moving
way
into
faster than Reaper.
Mist Unleashed.
So that's actually a lot
this is kind
annoying
of
as
the main
hell.
damage payoff of the kit. Skill 2, pretty standard damage and
Mist
vulnerability.
Unleashed, aka CMC Unchained.
And skill 3, Phantom's Onslaught. This is going to be another gap closer. We saw some in the Alliance stance side of things, but we also have here on the Greatsword. Dash in,
Okay.
probably need a target, so you actually want to hit something.
The chill.
You can't just fire that skill off without a target.
lot of
and dash, similar
AoE.
to Rush.
This is gonna
We
smash
cleaned
in
up,
World vs. World, I think.
This is actually using a slightly different animation from Rush, so it doesn't. It's a little bit less likely to fly out in random directions, which I'm sure all the Warrior players in chat can kind of grumble and complain about, because anyone who's played with Greatsword and Rush and has ended up on the wrong side of the map because their enemy was moving in a weird direction. That's going to be a little bit less of an issue here with Phantom's Onslaught. That's also going to be a little bit more chill in this kit.
Oh.
Next up, we have
Block.
Imperial Guards. This is a defensive cooldown here. It's going to be a channel block. And the kind of unique aspect of this is that you see it flips over into, I believe it's called True Strike here.
Wait,
This is just another damaging
uncapped
ability. So you
more
can just kinda
damage
double tap
per
this to
block?
get a little bit of extra
Oh
damage in there.
my
It's not ideal because the mechanic of Imperial Guard
Okay.
is that as long as you are blocking attacks,
Oh my god.
that is going to charge
Yeah.
up the damage of True Strike. So we see what is the damage here? About
Uncapped.
3k there. But if this
Yeah.
golem actually uses, say, rapid fire on me, and I block a lot of incoming blocks, a lot of incoming attacks, that's going to charge up True Strike. Then we're going to see, well, I forgot to crit, so huge misplay. But the damage does increase by a pretty significant amount there.
Okay.
And then finally, we're going to get Eternity's Requiem. This is kind of the big I guess it's another
Here
big
we go.
damage skill.
Open-
This
here we
one's
go,
a little
here we
bit
go,
more
here we go.
high variance. It's another thing where
9-second
you're going to be
AoE.
surrounded by a large cluster of enemies.
Sounds like meteor
So this
shower
is
to
gonna
me,
be kinda
boys.
similar to skills in the past we've seen with like Meteor Shower, Frostbow 4, there's a
Okay.
little bit of this Lightning Hammer where it's just this large cluster of spawning spells in the area around
Okay.
you, and so it has the similar mechanic of like damage reduction per hit.
Wait,
because
what
you
is
don't
the
wanna just,
duration?
Large hitbox.
you know,
Let's
get really
go.
Why does it
unlucky.
say
You get hit
9-second
by-
duration?
Somehow
That
we
was
got hit by
clearly
all
not 9
24
seconds.
impacts, which I would be impressed. Send me the VOD.
Wait,
I'll-
isn't this literally the, wait,
give
isn't this
you a high
literally the
five or
meteor
something
shower
if you
tooltip?
get hit by all 24 hits of this skill. But again,
Same
it's kinda have
functionality,
that
for
same
sure.
meteor shower mechanic. And
Just copy paste.
importantly, that you're going to see that when the golem uses this skill here, this is going to be a little bit more telegraphed because it's a little bit hard to see all those impacts, right? But here, for all of the enemies, they're going to be able to see that. Okay,
That
here's
is
all
a
these
juicy
damage radii
skill.
that I
Dude, this
need
is
to
a
avoid.
juicy weapon. Oh my god.
So that's just the Great Sword
Vindicator.
kit, you know, a little bit of mobility, a little bit of defense, a lot of cleaving AoE damage.
And now it's trade time.
that's
It's trade
really all
time.
there is to the Vindicator, but it's a very flexible character
Let's
because
go.
of the kind of dual nature
Let's
of
go.
the Alliance stance. You're going to be able to potentially run a few different builds with this character, whether it's pure offense or pure support, or the kind of the
This is
in-between
they've
hybrid.
increased the stakes.
There's a
there
lot
bit.
of possibilities, so it's going to be really interesting to
Yeah,
see.
everyone
like,
who said the
what all you guys do
Virtuoso
in
was
beta and what
boring,
your handle is.
I guess
They're all going to play Revenant.
So that's the
Yeah.
Vindicator. We'll come back to
Reggie's
the traits later in the show,
rapidly
like we mentioned.
changing
We're going to
already.
do all the super cool, exciting stuff with the skills and professional mechanics and the lore.
Oh, we're
And then
doing
we'll
traits
come back
later,
for the
apparently.
kind of a little bit more of the theory behind all the traits later in the show. So next we're going to move
Okay, all right,
into
okay, we're
the
doing traits later. Okay,
Blade
okay,
Sworn,
I got you.
We're going to go back to Cal now and do a deep dive, starting with yes, the Vindicator.
Oh,
keep
back to
clicking
Rev,
that shit. I wasn't
dude.
lying to people.
I bet we already forgot about
we're
this
gonna
because how
go through
crazy the
traits
warrior
and
and
some
Ellie are.
gameplay theories. So if you are super into that and you want to see more of these, stick around and let's go back to Cal.
All right,
Let's
back
go.
on the Vindicator.
Normies out.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
necessarily
get 'em
recommend
out.
this build. It's just one of the default loadouts for
pretty
the
short.
character that we build internally. But a lot of people complained about, and rightfully so, complained from the first beta live stream where these were all empty trait slots and there was just a bunch of flashing objects on the stream, really annoying. So we're fixing that up for this one.
Let's go.
Notably, we're going to talk about traits. We're not going to do like a super deep dive. I mean, we'd be here for hours.
Wow, okay.
Probably don't want to do that. Some
Flat
people want to go home.
instant reset when you do the F2.
eventually.
We'll save that for a later date. Like we're gonna run through the traits for sure. I'll talk a little bit about what the goals for these traits are. But we don't want to just talk for hours and hours about individual traits too much. But
But
we
the
will
recharge
cover
time
everything
is
to make sure
increased.
that
20
all
seconds.
that information is
yeah,
out there.
so you got 20 seconds
So
instead.
starting off with balance, let's start off the minor traits. Balance in Discord. This says, gain health and boons when swapping legends, or by using alliance tactics. So that's the F2 skill that we talked about earlier. So every time that I'm
Bit of nice
swapping
sustain.
legends, pretty standard gameplay for the Revenant. Gonna get a little bit of healing in there, and a little bit of regen. So it's a pretty solid sustain trait.
Okay.
And we're gonna see kind of, as we touched on earlier, this is very much a more
Scholarroom.
hybrid
Oh,
opportunity for this
interesting.
character to be
Above,
that
you
more
have more
aggressive,
damage,
more
but- oh, that's
sustaining.
kinda cool.
So we're going to see kind of a mix of
That's
both
cool.
of those things in the traits.
Really playing into that duality
Next
element.
up, we have Empire
of the
Divided,
Alliance.
Grandmaster damage trait. The power is only going to be applied if you have over 50% health. When you're below that threshold, it's going to give you increased healing power, enable to sustain back up and get back into that power bonus threshold. Next, I'm actually going to go to the Grandmaster traits.
Oh, here
because
we go.
touched on
The
it a little bit
dodges.
earlier, where these are defining how the dodge works for the Vindicator.
So cool.
Currently, I have the top one equipped
Oh,
Forerunner
so wait,
of
that's
Death.
one dodge,
So,
but it's 100 endurance.
there's
Oh, that is
actually a
interesting the
variable
way
amount
they
of
balance that,
endurance,
actually.
depending on how much, or
Wow.
depending on which of these you have equipped.
Okay.
It all kind of looks the same because we just have the one bar, but notably, Forerunner of Death actually increases your endurance pool, so you have 150, a little bit
Oh,
slower to charge because it
150.
is this kind of massive
That's a
damage
very
payoff,
nice way to balance it, actually.
which is more exciting to look at if you can see an enemy on my screen.
Okay.
But this also gives you this buff here, Forerunner of Death, which is outgoing strike damage increase.
Like, why is he
So
getting
you're
all
really
his
gonna be
endurance
able
back
to-
when he hits
You're
that?
going to be wanting to
Why is
maximize
that
endurance
happening?
enough so that you're able to chain this kind of off cooldown. 15-second duration on this. You want to make sure that you kind of get those chained together so you always have access to that 15-second damage bonus.
I think that might just be like a weird mechanic.
I'm going to come back to the middle one because that's kind of the in-between. Over here on the bottom we have Saint of Zuhelzer, and this is going to be the more supporty
Okay.
kind
Barrier
of
and heal.
healing
Wow, that is actually
dodge
and 20%
option. And so this one actually
healing modifier.
reduces your max endurance, which is a good thing for this character because now you only have to build up
huge.
50 endurance in
Whoa,
order to
like
kind of maximize
barrier
the
rev,
value
like heal
or to
rev.
fire
That
off
actually
these
sounds
skills
very
again.
strong.
I'm going to fire off this dodge again. As we see in the tooltip, this is going to apply barrier, apply healing, and then also give you personally an
That is a
outgoing
very
healing
strong
bonus.
effect.
So this is going
Much
to play well
quicker,
with some of the heals we saw in the Victor side of things, and
It's
also
kind of a
very
scary
well with
trait,
Antari, where
actually.
getting access to this healing bonus is going to really enable that
He doesn't have any
support
healing on
playstyle.
right now either. There's no healing power.
And this one also potentially just a very good option for competitive modes because that lower endurance cap is a little bit more easy
Just
to
have the
that's
urn
exciting.
you can use.
A little
Yeah.
bit easier to
The middle one.
upkeep.
Grants
Right.
boons to allies.
Finally, we're going to move into the middle, Imperial Impact, Vassals of the Empire.
Wait, and it
It's kind of
extends
that more
boon duration as
in-between.
well. 10 might
We're
and
going to see a little bit of damage here,
protection.
some condition applications, some
That's
boon
because of a
applications,
different
and boon
trait.
extensions.
Yeah, that's blue though, yeah. That's blue.
So this
Why
is
is
more-
that blue?
This character is not really intended to be a boon support, but as you're probably going to be playing with a boon support in your party, this is going to give
you
a little
can-
bit of extra value to that
dodging
composition,
extends duration
and that it's
by
going
2
to
seconds. That's
extend
quite a strong
any of those
mechanic, actually.
boons in addition to giving protection and might. Obviously, that buffs allies in range, but this will also hit enemies in range and apply
Bit of
a
damage.
couple of conditions to them, just as kind of that in-between, more of that mid-rangey, very
Okay.
flexible playstyle. You might choose
Pretty
to
good
slot
might,
this
though.
trait
10
for your
seconds.
dodge. That one's
10
going to keep you
stacks.
at the baseline of 100 endurance.
Okay.
Now we can come back to the adept traits, starting with Leviathan Strength. This one says F2. We should probably change the text so it says Lion's Tactics, Carl. Shout out to Carl.
Carl.
So Lion's Strength. F2 now refreshes the cooldowns of Lion's utility skills. And this also increases the cooldown of Alliance Tactics itself. And so the value of this skill is that in those cases where you're trying to make maybe that
call-out.
single-sided playstyle of the Alliance stance, where I'm firing off all of my Archimedes skills, all I care about is damage. I'm just firing off my Archimedes skills, firing off my Archimedes skills, firing off my Archimedes skills, and then
And
I'm
you can
going
swap them
to
and get
flip
them
Fire
back.
Alliance Tactics. That's going to then
yeah.
refresh the cooldown. That's actually bugged on Selfish Spirit. That's cool.
Yep.
Didn't refresh the cooldown there, but it should refund the cooldown of all those abilities. And then obviously it's still gated by energy cost, but just makes those instantly available if you feel the need to.
CMC is actually a treasure. Like, no joke,
If
dude.
not,
What a
you may
treasure.
choose to go for next Amnesty of Xingje. And so a lot of these trait names actually have a lot of lore tie-ins that are way over my head, so that's
Generation,
cool. I can't talk too
Mighty
much about those,
Okay, bit of
but I
buffing
know
there.
we did a lot of research about. I mean, maybe Indigo wants to talk about some of these things.
The lore
This was
implication.
totally not planned, so I'm just flipping the script. Let's
No script.
doing it live. What's going on here? Maybe we'll talk a little bit about more of the kind of the narrative behind that. Maybe a little bit separate show, or if we have time at the end,
Lore gaming.
we can come back to it. Amnesty of Xingje. Anyway, this basically says that your legendary alliance abilities gain additional boons. Cool. So every time I use an Archimedes skill, it's going to give might. Every time I use a Victor skill, it's going to give regen. Nothing too crazy, honestly, just very thematic for those characters. Adept traits and it don't really need to be super
Oh,
high
they don't
power level,
auto-proc
but
trait.
instead just
Woo,
keeping them
boring
pretty simple,
trait.
pretty thematic to the characters. Next up, we have Redemptor's
It's not 300
Sermon.
seconds, though. What's up with
So
that?
this is going to
Why is
start
it only
with health
30?
threshold. This is a mechanic we've seen
Dude,
in the
imagine if
past
it's
on
300 in
traits.
PvP.
This
Imagine
is
if it's
gonna do
default
a
300
little bit
in
of healing,
PvP.
a little bit of Connie cleanse.
Yeah, forgotten
If you
zero.
really
Yeah.
feel the need to have those kind of increased defensive options, I guess you could slot that trait if you really want to. Let's move along though. Move into Reaver's Curse. So it says gain endurance for each target affected by your dodge. And so as we saw in the
That's
two
strong.
different
That
flavors
is
of
juicy.
the dodge for the Vindicator, some of them affect allies, some of them affect enemies, some of
Very
them affect,
juicy.
or one of them affects both.
So 25 if
So
you get 5 targets.
in case where you affect both, it's going to give you endurance back per target.
But you do need
affected, whether it's
100 to actually
empowering
use
an
that,
ally
though, right? Or even
hitting an enemy.
150. So it's not actually that good.
So there's
'Cause
potentially
it's
a
not
lot of
like
endurance,
Mirage, right, where you still have a 50
a
dodge.
lot of
You need
endurance
100 or even
Yeah,
100.
but the one that'll
for
heal your
getting
allies.
Yes,
And the
dude,
current
hit
theme
10
is
allies.
Oh my
in
god,
the
wait. And you can
Master
get
Tier
half
traits
of
lot,
it
these are
back
the endurance game.
You
We
get
talked
half
about,
of it
again,
back
about this earlier.
from
Endurance
healing
very
people, then you're going
important
to do
for
it
this
again.
character.
That's actually
Moving
insane.
on to some name I can't pronounce. Indigo, can you help me out here?
Which one?
This trait right.
Oh my goodness. We just went over this the other day.
We're
Does she
locking in
know?
the pronunciation
We're
here.
locking
This
in
is,
pronunciations on the spot. Live.
Wait, what is? I can't
live,
see.
live
What is-
story breaking.
No one knows how to
Spell
pronounce
it.
it.
I can't see it.
What am I watching?
ANGSIYAN.
Yeah, I'm done.
Apostrophe S. Someone's trust is the theme of. That's just a huge disaster.
Dude, wait,
Carl
why?
for
Dude,
this
are you actually
too?
trying by that? Are you
Carl.
saying this? They're
I mean,
actually
It's
increasing the
probably
number of water
here
bottles
that
over time.
I'm
Like, no
not
joke. There's
well
more of
versed
them
enough
coming.
in the lore to
Yeah.
know this character.
Yeah, they are.
But anyway, if you have the trust of this
Amazing.
individual, or hopefully it's an individual, This is going to grant you endurance in an area when you swap legends
just, like,
or
change
when
it
you
to
fire
Jeff or
off
something.
alliance tactics. So this one's a little bit more of a reliable endurance gain. This one is reliant on being around enemies, being around allies. This one's just going to be value regardless, because you're always going to be swapping legends. You're always going to be activating alliance tactics.
Okay.
Finally, we have Song of Arboreum. So this one's going to be increased vigor effectiveness, also going to give you vigor.
Ooh,
so
vigor effectiveness.
We'll actually rush over here into Invocation real quick. Spirit Boon is going to give you vigor when entering Arcamoris.
Yep.
And Song of the Mist proc for Arcamoris
Also
is
gives you vigor.
going to give you endurance.
Endurance.
But some more endurance, more
Whoa.
vigor. That's gonna
Okay,
play really
okay.
nicely
I'm not gonna lie.
with
The
Song
amount
Arboreum,
of
which says
endurance
increased vigor
restoration here is a
effectiveness.
little
Different
scary. To be
source
honest. That's a
of
little
This is
scary.
getting out of
endurance
control.
generation.
Yeah.
That's actually all of them because I already went over the Grandmaster traits, so that's exciting. So that wraps up the
That's a lot
Vindicator.
of dodging.
That's everything
Particularly
there
on
is
the
to know about
51.
Vindicator.
Yeah, energy sigil.
Obviously, there's a lot more ones you guys.
Shiro.
Yeah,
jump in
Shiro
live.
too. That's pretty
I'm a
scary.
dodging
Game
main.
and get your hands
Dodge
on it.
God.
I'm going to